The Goal of World Community with Peace, Liberty, and Justice for All by Parker Dennison. The sixth principle seems extravagant in its hopefulness and improbable in its prospects. So much has happened since the principles were adopted in 1961 and revised in 1985. Can we continue to say that we want world community, peace, liberty, and justice for all? The world is full of genocide, abuse, terror, and war. What have we gotten ourselves into? As naive or impossible as the sixth principle may seem, I'm not willing to give up on it. In the face of our cultural apathy and fear, I want to imagine and help create a powerful vision of peace by peaceful means, liberty by libertary means, and justice by justice means. I want to believe and to live as we believe that a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all is possible. There's no guarantee that we will succeed, but I can assure you that we will improve ourselves and improve the world by trying. One way I have served the Unitarian Universalist Association is by being part of the Journey Toward Wholeness Transformation Committee. This committee is charged with the enormous task to strategically plan, coordinate, monitor, assess, and guide the transformation of Unitarian Universalist Association into an authentically anti-oppressive institution. To build an association that is free of oppressive patterns and behavior, to pursue wholeness of heart as well as wholeness of our world. These are things I believe in. Maybe I'm one of those foolish optimists because our sixth principle is something I won't give up. In fact, fight every effort to make this crazy dream even one bit smaller. People often assume I do this work because it benefits me, because I am transgender. They are right, but not in the way they imagine. It may be true that I was asked to serve on this particular committee because, as one of just a few transgender ministers, I have faced the realities of prejudice and discrimination. In a world that wants gender to fit neatly into one box or another, M or E, my gender is not that simple. This makes some people uncomfortable and even afraid. When people are afraid, they sometimes fall back into patterns and assumptions that can hurt. You don't have to be transgender to know how it feels to be crushed into a role or a box that is uncomfortable and painful. This is the heart of every social justice movement. Women know how it feels to be defined in ways that do not hold their strength and value. Anyone whose skin color is not white knows how it feels to be limited by others' definitions of their place and power in the world. Gay, lesbian, and bisexual people know how it is to be made small by prejudice and defined by only one part of their whole being. All of us know, even straight white men with healthy bodies and strong minds know the pain of being judged and limited by other people's assumptions. Working for the world community with peace, justice, and liberty for all is a gift to the world, but also to ourselves as we become liberated from the boxes that keep us from being whole. We are all on a journey toward wholeness as a people and as a religious community.
When I began my ministry, I was not so optimistic. In fact, I was fearful of social justice work. I was born in 1965, right between the assassinations of Kennedy and King. I remember the Watergate hearings preempting Sesame Street. I came of age during the me generation and graduated from high school in the indulgent 80s. By the time I was aware enough to pay attention, the great social movements of our time were over. Many of the heroes of those movements were dead or disgraced, and we'd become a narcissistic society with an increasing emphasis on self-help and self-actualization. During my intern year, the topic for our district minister's retreat was social justice. As the retreat grew near, I realized I was not looking forward to it. During the social hour, a colleague asked if I was as excited about the program as he was. Much to the surprise of both of us, I answered honestly that I was not looking forward to it at all. This led to a long discussion. I recited for him the reasons I was feeling cynical. As I peeled through the layers of my resistance, I found at the core a sadly simple fear. I'm young, I said. Unlike you, I've never seen a social movement succeed. You stopped the war. You marched for civil rights. You've seen the government change policy and people change the culture. To me, those are only stories, and most of those stories end in defeat. I wonder, why bother? To his credit, my colleague was quite patient and listened to all my fears and excuses. Then he looked me right in the eye and said, Sean, we didn't march because we thought we would succeed. We marched because it was the right thing to do. In that moment, all my pathetic excuses crumbled. I knew what he said was true. The people in the streets were not simply idealistic hippies, as I'd been taught to believe. They weren't simply foolish optimists. No, they were people driven to the streets by conscience and conviction. They had to march because they knew what was right and they could not stay silent in the face of war, oppression, injustice. They were living their principles, and they were living our principles. And I was and am called to do the same. I did not know at the time that my colleagues were echoing words that had been repeated again and again throughout Unitarian Universalist history. Olympia Brown, the first Universalist minister to be ordained as a woman, in the 1863 said, "Every nation must learn that the people of all nations are children of God and must share the wealth of the world." You may say this is impractical, far away, can never be accomplished, but it is what we are appointed to do. Sometime, somehow, somewhere, we must ever teach this great lesson. The goal of world community with peace, freedom, and justice for all may not be attainable. It may be an uphill battle, an impossible dream. And yet, if we give up without trying, we lose the opportunity to do what we know is right. We lose the chance to put our principles to work to create more peace, more freedom, and more justice in the world. We may forfeit the prospect of some peace because we insist on perfect peace. We may prove what French novelist Gustave Flaubert once said, "Perfection is the enemy of the good." And thus, unwittingly, we may make ourselves enemies of the good, or the good enough. To insist on success is to ensure that nothing will change.
Luckily, we do not have to create peace, freedom, and justice for all single-handedly. I'm not required to do it alone, nor are you. Despite our plurality about what we believe, Unitarian Universalists are surprisingly united when it comes to what we should be doing. In a 2004 survey, respondents consistently rated several affirmations of mission as highly important. They are. We challenge ourselves and our world to look for options other than violence to resolve differences. We need to challenge ourselves and our world to build bridges of understanding and respect across differences. We are committed to the work of dismantling prejudice, racism, and all forms of oppression. We challenge ourselves to question values such as consumerism and conformity that permeate our society. Our relationship with the natural world means cooperating and protecting, not controlling. The Unitarian Universalist community knows some things are things to be true. We are united in our belief that we should be working to make the world a better place. The next challenge is to begin to do something more than talk about it. A vision of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all can help us do that. Justice is the only value that is referred to twice in our Unitarian Universalist principles, appearing in the second principle as well. So, what is justice? Why is it important enough to be in our principles twice? According to Reverend Ricky Hoyt, justice is getting what you deserve and giving out to other people what they deserve. Justice is a moral sense of what should or ought to be done. But the shoulds and oughts of justice carry the danger of leading to a mechanical justice. Feed in circumstance A and get out justice consequence B. The result of that kind of justice is often needlessly harsh. The calculation of justice is incredibly complex and perhaps not really possible. We begin our lives with such unjust advantages and disadvantages, have nothing to do with what we deserve, that the inequities are impossible to fully rectify justly during our lives. Justice is getting what you deserve and giving to others what they deserve, not in the punitive sense that we often use the phrase, but in a sense that asks us to use our moral imaginations to picture a world where every person is seen, valued, and then given at least the basics of what they deserve. That seems simple enough until one looks at the mass of humanity and realizes that just by being born in a certain place, just by belonging to one group or another, one inherits advantages or disadvantages, privilege or pain. Justice is getting what we deserve, but there's no way to control what we get or don't get. We are born into a world where everything is skewed. Justice is simple, but our world is incredibly complex. In the Jewish tradition, the world is seen as incomplete and broken. The work of this life then is to help with the tikkun ahalum, the healing of the world. The human endeavor is to work for real justice, something that repairs what is broken, that honors each person by giving them what they deserve and asking them to participate in giving everyone else what they deserve.
Reverend Richard Gilbert says, I am hopeful, though not optimistic, about our capacity to repair the world in the face of many unjust assaults upon it. He goes on to say that the church is a school of the Spirit, helping us to probe the depths of worship and work, a place where we can ask the basic questions about the meaning of our brief guest appearance on this earthly stage. I like this idea. Our congregations are schools for our spirits, places where we can learn to ask what it means to be here, what we can do to heal the world, what will make our lives more meaningful. Our congregation should be places where we are constantly asking, how can I make a difference? Places where we work hard to expand our sense of community to all people, our sense of justice well beyond just us. Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams said, "The holy thing in life is the participation in those processes that give body and form to universal justice." Our congregations are places where we can make that happen. These affirmations do not have a paternalistic us changing them. Instead, they are personal as well as political. They challenge us to confront and change our thinking, our relationships, and our assumptions. They echo the words of Mohandas Gandhi. He told us, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." We are asked to help create peace by becoming more peaceful, to create freedom by dismantling oppression, to create justice by changing the way of relating to others and the earth. This is something we can do at any time, internally or externally, in small or large ways, to bring about a world in which our Unitarian Universalist principles are increasingly realized. We may not succeed at perfecting the world, but we will be able to improve it. Little things can make a dramatic difference. I'm reminded of a friend who lamented about how much the need to be smart seems to now outweigh the need to be kind. If we are serious about creating a world of peace, freedom, justice, and wholeness, we can begin by reversing these priorities. What if we decided that kindness was more important than proving ourselves smart or right? How would it change our conversations and our relationships with one another? How might it free us to be creative, compassionate, and more courageous as we strive for solutions to the issues that concern us? This ethic of kindness needs to catch on in families, neighborhoods, cities, and nations. Let us dare imagine a world in which a reputation for kindness is valued above all else. It is easy to get discouraged and even give up in the face of such a big job. Healing the world cannot be done quickly, and in fact, may never be done. Justice will always be in process, and our work will always be needed to help create and sustain it. We, like generations before us and generations to come, will have to keep working. If giving body and form to universal justice really is what is holy, I am glad there is more to be done. Our congregations and our lives will be made more meaningful and enriched as we work for justice for all people. Our congregations are schools for our spirits, where by learning to welcome all, we learn to live lives of justice. They are schools for our spirits where we can face a broken world and know we can help heal it, and we don't have to do it alone. A world of perfect peace, freedom, and justice may be an idealistic dream. Yet, let's not give up on it. Every effort we make to improve ourselves and our communities makes the world a better place, and it makes our lives better too. Every moment of kindness, every wish for wholeness and respect, Every time we do what is right makes the world a little more the way we would like it to be.